I would start by saying to young people this, that is, that climate change is a problem, but the world is not about to end, and you should look at the documents that have been produced by the International Panel on Climate Change and find out what it actually has to say about where we're headed. Because what we've seen is a complete change in language over time. Right? We've gone from global warming to climate change, which means it could have been anything, and then we get to extreme weather and we get to a climate emergency. And what we've done is we've managed to terrify a generation of the young about an end of times scenario that doesn't actually exist in any of the literature. You know, climate change is a problem. It is not an existential threat. So that's good news. We should celebrate that. But we do need to deal with the problem. And if nuclear energy, John, had been invented yesterday, it would now be being hailed by the world as a world-saving technology. Because what do we have? The densest form of power that we know of, which is capable of providing energy and heat, and that spinning wheel that I was talking about before that stabilizes a grid. So it can do everything that we want from a base load power, and the fuel source, the fuel cost of it is really quite cheap. So it would be, and it's got, and on top of all of that, it is zero emissions. And I'd look too at the government's plan. So if you look at the government's plan for the Eastern Grid, what's known as the National Electricity Market, the system that they're building to get to 82% renewables will not function without 15 gigawatts of gas. Again, it's a meaningless figure, but that is 15 cities of 1 million people. That's how much gas needs to be in the system to ensure that the system is stabilised and to ensure that we have 100% backup of it when it decides to go offline, and we're never going to know when that's going to be. People talk about storage. You cannot have storage that lasts you over a course of more than a couple of days to try and cover the gap that's left by wind and solar when they leave a big hole in generation. You need a dispatchable source of fuel. So as long as you leave the gas there, you're going to have a carbon footprint. If you're really concerned about getting rid of that as the last piece in the puzzle, then you'd put nuclear energy in there to do that job. And then you would actually have a system that was capable of delivering a zero emissions electricity system. We would be nowhere near the point of being able to get all fossil fuel out of our built environment. That, I think, and we will find, is going to take a couple of 100 years if we stay on this path. But like I say, every single year, except for the global financial crisis and COVID, the world's carbon emissions have risen since 1992, when we began this carbon-cutting journey at the Rio Earth Summit. So the world is not serious about cutting carbon emissions. What the world has done is to move where the carbon is burnt from some of the industrialised countries to places like China. And what have we seen? China, the more energy it burns, the richer it becomes, and the less that is used in the Western world, the poorer it becomes. The United States has now worked out that that's not an equation it wants to follow anymore. Europe has yet to get the memo, and so has the UK. But over time, governments will be forced by their populations to change, because somewhere along the pathway to poverty, John, people will riot. There will be a revolt.